The space around the small moon was quiet and dark. Stars shone in the distance like tiny jewels. This peace lasted until a large ship appeared. Its metal hull gleamed in the light of the nearby sun. This was the USS Defender, the newest and most powerful warship that humans had ever built. Captain Frank Miller stood on the bridge of the USS Defender. He was a tall man with gray hair at his temples. His blue uniform was crisp and neat. 20 years in Earth's Defense Force had taught him to always look ready for anything. "Status report," Captain Miller said in a calm voice. Lieutenant Susan Baker turned from her station. Her fingers moved quickly over the glowing screen in front of her. "All systems normal, Captain. We are now beyond any previously mapped human territory." Miller nodded. This mission was important. The USS Defender was testing its new engines, ones that could take humans farther into space than ever before. But they were also looking for new friends among the stars. Earth had learned long ago that it was not alone in the universe. "Sir?" called out Officer Greg Young from the scanner station. His eyes were wide with surprise. "I'm picking up signals. There's something out there." Miller walked over to look at Young's screen. "What kind of signals?" "Communication patterns, sir." "Complex ones. And they're coming from a ship. A big one." The bridge grew quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. First contact with a new alien species. "Lieutenant Baker, open all communication channels." "Standard greeting protocol," Miller ordered. Baker nodded and began to work at her station. "Channels open, sir. Broadcasting in all known formats and frequencies." Miller cleared his throat and spoke clearly. "This is Captain Frank Miller of the Earth vessel USS Defender. We come in peace and wish to establish friendly contact." The crew waited. Seconds turned into minutes. "Sir," Baker said, "I'm getting a response. Visual coming through now." The main screen at the front of the bridge flickered. Then an image appeared. The alien had gray-blue skin and 4 eyes that blinked in pairs. It wore something like a uniform with strange symbols. "I am Commander Zithgor of the Craxian Collective," the alien said, its voice translated by the ship's computers. "You have entered Craxian space. Identify your purpose." Miller stepped forward. "We are on a peaceful exploration mission. We did not know this was claimed territory. We apologize for any intrusion." The alien's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. "Our scans detect weapons on your vessel." "Yes," Miller said carefully. "We carry defensive systems only. They are not active." The alien commander turned to speak to someone off-screen. The crew of the USS Defender could hear urgent whispers. Science Officer Lisa Wright moved closer to Miller. "Captain," she whispered. "They seem nervous." Miller nodded slightly. He had noticed too. The alien commander's skin had changed color slightly, and its movements had become quick and jerky. Commander Zithgor turned back to the screen. "Our scans show technology beyond our understanding." "Explain your capabilities." Miller chose his words carefully. "Our ship has standard defensive systems and propulsion technology. Nothing that should cause alarm." Officer Wright looked down. At her tablet, data scrolled across it rapidly. "Captain," she said quietly, "they're scanning us more deeply now. They're trying to look at our engine core and weapon systems." Miller frowned. This wasn't the friendly first meeting he had hoped for. On screen, Commander Zithgor was speaking quickly to others around him. More aliens had gathered, all looking at screens and talking with urgent voices. "Their ship signatures match nothing in our records," one alien said, not realizing the humans could hear. "The power readings are impossible for a vessel that size." Could it be a trick? A first wave of invasion? Another asked. Miller realized the situation was getting worse. "Commander Zithgor," he said firmly, "I assure you we mean no harm. Perhaps we could arrange a meeting between our peoples? To learn about each other? The alien commander turned back to the screen. Its skin had now turned a pale green color. Remain where you are. Do not approach further. We must consult with our leaders. The screen went black. Lieutenant Jack Peterson spoke up from the weapons station. Captain, they've activated their weapons systems. Nothing firing yet, but they're powering up. Miller's face grew serious. No aggressive moves. Keep our systems passive. Lieutenant Baker, keep trying to reach them. Baker nodded and worked at her station. They're not responding, sir. Officer Wright was studying her screens intently. Captain, I think I understand. What's happening? Based on their technology that we can detect, they're several decades behind us in weapons development. They might see our ship as far more dangerous than it actually is. Miller thought about Earth's history. Humans had developed powerful weapons because they had nearly destroyed themselves multiple times. Wars had pushed technology forward faster than anyone wanted. The USS Defender carried systems designed to protect Earth from threats, but to these aliens, it might look like something built only for destruction. More ships approaching, sir, Peterson reported. Small vessels. Looks like a reconnaissance fleet. Miller sat in his command chair. Everyone stay calm. No sudden movements. The bridge was silent as they watched the small alien ships move toward them in a careful formation. The ships circled the USS Defender like cautious animals approaching something strange and possibly dangerous. They're scanning us again, sir, Wright said suddenly. Baker called out, Captain, I'm picking up communication between their ships. Our translators are working on it. A moment later, the computer played the translated message. Power signatures. Exceeding our highest measurements. Weapons capability unknown, but estimated to exceed our entire fleet. Recommend immediate withdrawal and preparation of defense protocols. Miller closed his eyes briefly. This was going badly. These aliens were afraid, and fear often led to bad decisions. Lieutenant Baker, open a channel to all their ships, Miller ordered. Channel open, sir. This is Captain Miller. We understand your concern. We suggest a neutral meeting point where representatives from both our peoples can talk safely. We, sir, Peterson shouted. Energy spike from the lead alien vessel. Miller stood up quickly. Evasive maneuvers. The USS Defender moved smoothly to the side as a beam of energy passed by, missing the ship by a small distance. No return fire, Miller ordered firmly. Defensive screens only. The automatic defense systems of the USS Defender activated. A soft blue glow surrounded the ship. Another shot came from one of the alien vessels. It hit the blue shield and dissipated harmlessly. The aliens fired again and again, but nothing got through the shield. Miller watched sadly as the aliens wasted their energy on attacks that couldn't hurt his ship. He didn't want this fight. He didn't want the aliens to fear humans. Sir, Baker said, I'm getting a new transmission from their main ship. It's being broadcast widely. I think it's going to their home world. The message played through the translator. First contact with unknown species. Extremely advanced weapons and defenses. Cannot penetrate their shields. Request immediate reinforcements. The Craxian Collective faces its greatest threat. Miller sighed and looked around at his crew. This was not how humanity's first meeting with the Craxian Collective was supposed to go. Now he had to find a way to turn fear into understanding before things got worse. Send a message to Earth, he told Baker. Let them know we've made contact, but we may need diplomatic support. He looked at the view screen, showing the alien ships still circling cautiously. We need to find a way to show them we're not the monsters they think we are. 3 hours had passed since the first shots were fired. The USS Defender floated in space, its blue shield still glowing softly. Around it, The small fleet of Craxian ships kept their distance. No one had fired again, but the tension remained. Thick. On the bridge of the USS Defender, Captain Miller rubbed his tired eyes. "Any response to our messages, Lieutenant Baker?" Susan Baker shook her head. "Nothing, sir. They're receiving our transmissions, but they won't answer." Miller turned to Science Officer Lisa Wright. "What have you learned about them?" Wright looked up from her station. "The Craxians appear to be a collective of different alien species who joined together centuries ago. Their technology is advanced in some ways, but their weapons and defense systems are far behind ours. That explains their fear," Miller said quietly. "Anything else?" "Yes, sir. Their communication patterns suggest a society that values order and caution. They don't like surprises." Wright paused. "And based on their ship design, I believe they've never faced a serious military threat before. They aren't prepared for it." Lieutenant Jack Peterson spoke up from his station. "Captain, we have movement. A larger vessel is approaching, much bigger than the others." On the main screen, they watched as a massive ship appeared from behind. The small moon. It was at least 3 times the size of the USS Defender, with a design that reminded Miller of a sea creature from Earth's oceans. "That must be their command ship," Miller said. "Sir," Baker called out, "they're hailing us." "Put them through." The screen changed to show a different alien than before. This one had darker skin and wore elaborate decorations on its uniform. "I am Admiral Vex Tula of the Craxian Defense Force," the alien said. Its 4 eyes stared intently at Miller. "Your presence has caused great concern among our people." Miller stood straight. "Admiral, we apologize for the misunderstanding. We are on a peaceful mission." The alien admiral made a gesture that might have been dismissal. "Commander Zithgor reports that your vessel possesses technology far beyond our understanding. Our scans confirm this. Such power imbalance represents a threat to our security." "We have no hostile intentions," Miller insisted. "We only activated our shields when fired upon, and we did not return fire. Surely that demonstrates our peaceful nature." Admiral Vextula seemed to consider this. Perhaps it demonstrates your confidence in your superior position." Miller tried a different approach. "Admiral, I propose a direct meeting, face to face. That would allow us to better understand each other." Before the admiral could respond, a young Craxian officer rushed to his side and whispered urgently. The young alien's skin was pale with fear. "What is happening on your vessel?" the admiral demanded suddenly. Miller looked confused. "Nothing, Admiral. What do you mean?" "Our sensors detect energy fluctuations within your ship. Are you preparing weapons?" Miller turned to Peterson, who shook his head. "Negative, sir. All weapons systems remain passive." Wright checked her readings. "Sir, I think they're detecting our routine power distribution cycle. It happens every 4 hours." Miller turned back to the screen. "Admiral, what you're detecting is a normal function of our power systems. It's not a weapon charging." The young Craxian officer, who Miller now saw had a translator badge that identified him as Kriya Lix, spoke directly to the admiral. "Their language patterns match what we know of deception tactics. The energy signature is consistent with weapon preparation." Miller felt the situation slipping away. "That's incorrect. Your translator is misinterpreting our intentions." Admiral Vextula's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. "You will power down all systems immediately and prepare to be boarded for inspection." Miller shook his head. "I cannot do that, Admiral." "It would put my crew at risk." "But I am willing to." "This is not a negotiation," the admiral interrupted. "Power down, or we will consider it confirmation of hostile intent." The screen went dark again. Officer Wright looked worried. "Captain, I believe their translator Creolix has a poor understanding of human speech patterns. He's interpreting our normal conversation as threatening. Miller nodded grimly. And now they want us to completely power down. That's not happening. Sir, Peterson reported, the large ship is moving into position. The smaller vessels are forming a pattern around us. They're going to try to surround us, Miller said. Standard containment strategy. Baker's console beeped. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from Earth. Admiral Mary Collins is responding to our situation report. She's sending 3 ships to our position, but they won't arrive for at least 12 hours. Miller considered their options. We need to buy time without escalating this situation. Engineer Alan Garcia entered the bridge. Captain, I might have a solution. I've been studying their communication frequencies. If we adjust our translator to better match their emotional patterns, we might be able to make them understand we're not a threat. Do it, Miller ordered. Garcia nodded and hurried to Baker's station to make the adjustments. Sir, Peterson called out, they're charging weapons on multiple vessels. Miller made a decision. Lieutenant, activate Defense Protocol 2. Shields only, no offensive measures. Yes, sir. Defense Protocol 2 active. The blue shield around the USS Defender grew slightly brighter. Captain, Wright said suddenly, I've been analyzing their biological signatures. The Craxians have a unique nervous system that makes them especially sensitive to perceived threats. It's likely part of their evolutionary history. They developed intelligence as prey species, not predators. Miller nodded. So when they see something they don't understand, they're biologically programmed to assume it's dangerous, right? Finished. On the main screen, he could see the Craxian vessels moving into final position. Sir, Baker said, Engineer Garcia has completed the translator adjustments. We can try again. Open a channel, Miller ordered. Channel open to the Admiral's vessel. Miller spoke clearly. Admiral Vex Tula, we understand your concerns. Your people evolved to be cautious of unknown threats. This is wise. Humans also learned caution through hard experiences. But we are not your enemy. There was a long pause before the Admiral responded. His voice sounded surprised. How do you know? Of our evolutionary history? We observe and learn, Miller said, just as you do. It is why both our species have survived and thrived. The Admiral seemed to consider this. Your words show understanding. Yet your ship remains a concern. Our technology developed through necessity, Miller explained. Earth faced many dangers in its history. We built defenses to survive, not to conquer. As Miller spoke, Peterson whispered, Sir, one of the smaller vessels is breaking formation. It's moving to attack position. Miller kept his focus on the conversation. Admiral, we wish to share knowledge, not to... Captain, Peterson shouted. Energy spike. They're firing. A bright beam shot from one of the smaller Craxian ships, hitting the USS Defender's shield directly. The shield absorbed the impact, but the entire ship shuddered slightly. No return fire, Miller ordered firmly. Maintain defensive posture only. On screen, Admiral Vex Tula appeared to be shouting orders. Captain Razal, cease fire immediately. You are not authorized to attack. But the smaller ship fired again. And then another joined in. The USS Defender's automated defense systems, designed to protect the ship even beyond manual control, activated at a higher level. The shield pulsed once, sending a wave of energy outward that disabled the weapons. Systems of the attacking vessels. 3 Craxian ships now drifted powerless, their lights flickering. Admiral Vex Tula stared through the view screen at Miller, all 4 of his eyes wide with shock. What have you done to our ships? Nothing permanent, Miller assured him. Our defensive system temporarily disabled their weapons. No one was harmed. The Admiral's skin had turned a pale shade that Miller now understood indicated extreme fear. Such technology. It is beyond anything in the collective's history. Miller could see terror spreading through the Craxian fleet. What had started as caution was becoming full-blown panic. And he knew from Earth's history that nothing was more dangerous than a frightened, cornered opponent. "Admiral," Miller said, calmly, "let us start again. Not as potential enemies, but as two civilizations with much to learn from each other." The answer came not in words, but in actions. The remaining Craxian vessels began to retreat, moving away from the USS Defender. As quickly as they could, the first encounter between humans and the Craxian collective was not going well at all. Captain Miller watched as the Craxian ships retreated to a safer distance. The bridge of the USS Defender was quiet. Everyone understood how quickly the situation had changed from a peaceful first contact to a dangerous standoff. "They're scared," Miller said finally, "and scared people make bad choices." Lieutenant Baker nodded. "Sir, the translator adjustments that Engineer Garcia made are complete. We should be able to communicate more clearly now." "If they'll talk to us at all," Peterson said from his station. Miller turned to his first officer. "Ben, I need options." First, Officer Ben Howard had been quietly analyzing the situation. He was younger than Miller, with a calm approach to problems that made him valuable in tense situations. "Captain, I believe we need to make a gesture they can't misinterpret," Howard said. "Something that clearly shows we aren't the threat they think we are." "What do you suggest?" Miller asked. "Let me take a shuttle," Howard said. "A small vessel with minimal technology. Just me and perhaps Officer Wright, since she understands their biology. We'll approach slowly and request direct talks." Miller frowned. "That puts you at significant risk." "Yes, sir," Howard agreed. "But it shows trust. They need to see that we're willing to make ourselves vulnerable." Miller thought about it. He didn't like putting his crew in danger, but Howard's suggestion made sense. The Craxians needed to see that humans weren't the monsters they feared. "All right," Miller decided. "But I want constant communication, and at the first sign of trouble, you return immediately." "Understood, sir," Howard said. Baker's station beeped with an incoming message. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from—" "It seems to be from the Craxian homeworld." "Put it through," Miller ordered. The main screen showed a group of Craxians seated in what looked like a council chamber. Their skin colors varied, but all wore elaborate decorations that suggested high rank. "I am High Commander Zaxfer of the Craxian Collective," said the alien in the center. "Your ship has disabled 3 of our vessels without firing a single weapon. Explain this technology immediately." Miller stood tall. "High Commander, our ship has defensive systems designed to protect us with minimal harm to others. We did not wish to damage your vessels or harm your people." The High Commander's 4 eyes narrowed. "Reports say your weapons could destroy our entire fleet. Is this true?" Miller chose his words carefully. "Our ship is not designed for destruction. It is designed for exploration and self-defense. We have no desire to harm anyone." The alien leaders whispered among themselves. Then the High Commander spoke again. "The Craxian Collective has known peace for 300 years. We have not faced a species with superior military technology since the founding of our alliance. Your presence represents an unprecedented threat." "We are not a threat," Miller insisted. "We wish to establish peaceful relations." "So you claim," the High Commander said. "Yet 3 of our ships now drift powerless. Admiral Vextula reports that you did this without firing a single shot. How can we trust a species with such capabilities?" Miller signaled to Howard, who stepped forward. "High Commander, I am First Officer Ben Howard. With your permission, I will travel to meet with you in a small shuttle with minimal systems. No weapons, no advanced technology. Just 2 people coming to talk in peace." The Craxian leaders seemed surprised by this offer. They spoke quietly among themselves again. Meanwhile, Officer Wright whispered to Miller, "Captain, I'm monitoring their news broadcasts. The Craxian public is in a state of panic. Their media is showing images of our ship with wild speculation about our capabilities." Miller nodded grimly. This was getting worse. Fear was spreading through the entire Craxian civilization. The High Commander finally responded. "Your offer is ... unexpected. We will allow this meeting. You will be met by a delegation at these coordinates." Data appeared on a secondary screen. "Thank you, High Commander," Howard said. "We look forward to meeting in person." The transmission ended. Miller turned to Howard. "Be careful, Ben. This could still be a trap." Howard nodded. "Yes, sir. But it's a chance worth taking." 20 minutes later, Howard and Officer Wright were aboard a small shuttle heading toward the meeting point. The shuttle was the smallest vessel on the USS Defender, with only basic systems and no weapons. On the bridge, Miller watched their progress on the main screen. Lieutenant Baker maintained constant communication with the shuttle. "Yes, sir," Baker replied. "They're approaching the meeting point now." The screen showed a space station in the distance. It was smaller than Miller had expected, obviously. A hastily prepared meeting location away from both the USS Defender and the Craxian homeworld. "Captain," Peterson called out, "I'm detecting multiple ships moving toward that sector. Not heading for our position, but definitely heading toward the meeting point." Miller leaned forward. "How many?" "At least 20 vessels, sir." "And they're big warships." Miller felt his stomach tighten. "Lieutenant Baker, warn the shuttle immediately." Baker nodded and opened the channel. "First Officer Howard, be advised. Multiple Craxian warships are heading to your position." Howard's voice came through clearly. "Understood. We still believe this is a necessary risk, Captain." Miller watched as the shuttle continued on its course. He had to trust Howard's judgment, but he didn't like the situation at all. On the shuttle, Howard turned to Wright. "What do you think? Are they planning to capture us?" Wright shook her head. "I don't think so. Based on their psychology, I believe they're simply frightened, and bringing reinforcements makes them feel safer." "Let's hope you're right," Howard said as he guided the shuttle toward the station. Back on the USS Defender, Engineer Garcia rushed onto the bridge. "Captain, I've been monitoring the Craxian communications network. Their military has gone to their highest alert status. They're calling all available ships to this sector." "How many ships are we talking about?" Miller asked. Garcia looked grim. "Hundreds, sir. Their entire fleet." Miller turned to Peterson. "Time until our reinforcements arrive?" "Still at least 10 hours, sir," Peterson replied. Baker interrupted. "Captain, I'm picking up a wide broadcast from the Craxian homeworld. It's their leader addressing their people." "Let's hear it," Miller ordered. The voice that came through was shaking with emotion. "Citizens of the Craxian Collective, today we face the greatest challenge in our history. An alien vessel of unprecedented power has entered our territory. Our scientists confirm its capabilities exceed anything in our experience. We must stand united against this threat. All civilian vessels are ordered to return to the nearest safe harbor. All military vessels are now under direct command of High Command. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." Miller closed his eyes briefly. The Craxians were preparing for war. "Sir," Baker said urgently, "the shuttle has reached the meeting point. They're docking now." All eyes on the bridge turned to the screen, watching as the small human shuttle connected with the Craxian station. The future of first contact between humans and the Craxian Collective now rested on the shoulders of First Officer Howard and Officer Wright. Miller could only hope that face-to-face contact would help the Craxians. See that humans weren't the terrifying monsters they believed them to be. But with hundreds of warships on the way, time was running out. First Officer Ben Howard and Officer Lisa Wright stepped through the airlock into the Craxian space station. The air was slightly different than on their ship, a bit thicker and with a sweet smell. 6 Craxian guards stood waiting, their weapons held ready. "We come in peace," Howard said calmly, raising his empty hands. "We are here to meet with your leaders." The guards did not lower their weapons. Their skin showed patches of pale green, the color of fear, Wright had explained. One guard stepped forward. "Follow us," he said in a shaky voice. "Do not make any sudden movements." Howard and Wright exchanged a quick glance and then followed the guards down a curved hallway. Wright noticed how the station's design avoided sharp corners and straight lines. Everything flowed in gentle curves, very different from human architecture. They were led into a round room where 3 Craxian officials waited. Howard recognized Admiral Vex Tula from the earlier transmission. The other 2 were new faces. "I am Counselor Mithvin," said the Craxian in the center. "This is Scientific Director Kelzer. You have already spoken with Admiral Vex Tula." Howard bowed slightly. "Thank you for meeting with us. I am First Officer Ben Howard, and this is Science. Officer Lisa Wright." The Craxians did not relax. Their 4 eyes watched every movement the humans made. "Your captain claims peaceful intentions," Counselor Mithvin said. "Yet your ship possesses technology that frightens our most experienced military leaders. Why? Should we believe you come in peace?" Wright spoke up. "May I?" she asked Howard, who nodded. "Counselor, we've studied your biology. Your species evolved as prey animals, correct? Your 4 eyes giving wide vision to watch for predators, your hearing tuned to detect dangers?" The scientific director, Kelzer, seemed surprised. "You have learned much about us in a short time." Wright nodded. "Humans evolved differently. We were both predator and prey. We had to be clever to survive against larger predators. This pushed us to develop tools and technology rapidly." "And weapons," Admiral Vex Tula added. "Yes," Howard admitted. "Our history includes many conflicts. But each conflict taught us the value of peace. The USS Defender was built for exploration, not war. Yet it disabled 3 of our ships without effort," the Admiral said. Howard took a small device from his pocket. The guards immediately raised their weapons higher. "It's just a data pad," Howard said quickly. "I want to show you something." Slowly, the guards lowered their weapons. Howard activated the pad, and a holographic image appeared above it. It showed Earth. "This is our home," Howard said. 200 years ago, we nearly destroyed it through war and environmental damage. We learned the hard way that technology without wisdom is dangerous." He changed the image to show the USS Defender. "Our ship has powerful defensive systems, yes? But look at its design. Most of the space is for laboratories, living quarters, and exploration equipment. Less than 20% is dedicated to defense systems." The Craxians studied the image carefully. "If we wanted to harm you," Wright added, "why would we come with just 1 ship? Why would we try to talk? Why would we send 2 unarmed people to meet with you?" The Craxians exchanged looks. For the first time, there seemed to be a hint of doubt in their fear. Back on the USS Defender, Captain Miller was growing increasingly concerned. The Craxian fleet was continuing to gather. Nearly 50 ships were now visible on their sensors, with more arriving constantly. "Any word from Howard and Wright?" Miller asked. Lieutenant Baker shook her head. "No, sir. The station is blocking communications." "That's not a good sign," Miller muttered. Peterson called from his station. "Captain, we have a problem. One of the Craxian ships is moving into attack position. It's charging weapons." Miller straightened. Shields up, but no offensive measures. Shields active, sir, Peterson confirmed. The Craxian vessel is within firing range. Miller stared at the screen. What are they doing? They know their weapons can't penetrate our shields. Engineer Garcia spoke up. Sir, I think I understand. Based on the communications I've intercepted, this captain believes he can find a weakness in our defense system if he tries different attack patterns. That's a dangerous game, Miller said. Lieutenant Baker, try. To reach them, tell them to stand down. Baker worked at her station. No response, sir. They're ignoring our hails. The Craxian ship fired. A bright energy beam struck the USS Defender's shields, which glowed brighter but held firm. No damage, sir, Peterson reported. Shields at 99.8%. The Craxian ship changed position and fired again, this time from a different angle. Again, the shields absorbed the attack easily. Sir, Garcia said urgently, 3 more ships are moving to join the attack. I think they believe they've found a pattern that might work. Miller frowned. This could escalate quickly. Peterson, activate Defense Protocol 3. Defense Protocol 3 active, sir. Peterson confirmed. The USS Defender's shields changed slightly, becoming more adaptive to the incoming attacks. The system was designed to protect the ship while causing minimal harm to attackers. On the space station, the meeting between Howard Wright and the Craxian leaders was interrupted by an urgent message. A young Craxian officer rushed in, his skin almost white with fear. Counselor, Captain Dresmer has engaged the alien vessel. 3 other ships have joined the attack. Admiral Vextula stood up angrily. I gave no such order. Tell them to cease fire immediately. They won't respond to commands, the young officer said. Captain Dresmer says he's found a weakness in the alien shields. He says this is our only chance before more of their ships arrive. Howard looked alarmed. There is no weakness in our shields. This attack will only make things worse. We must return to our ship, Wright said urgently. The Craxian leaders seemed torn between fear and the beginnings of trust that had started to form during their conversation. Let us contact our captain, Howard pleaded, before this gets out of hand. After a moment's hesitation, Counselor Mithvin nodded. Allow them to use our communication system. Howard was quickly connected to the USS Defender. Captain Miller, we have a situation, Howard reported. 4 Craxian ships are attacking, against orders from their command. The Craxian leaders are trying to stop them, but the captains won't listen. Miller's voice came through clearly. Understood. We've activated Defense Protocol 3. It should protect us without harming their ships. Try to convince them to stand down. Working on it, sir, Howard replied. On the USS Defender's bridge, Peterson called out, Sir, 2 more ships have joined the attack. They're coordinating their fire on a single point of our shields. Miller watched the screen as 6 Craxian warships circled his ship, firing continuously at the same spot. The shields were holding, but the situation was getting more dangerous. By the minute, Baker, any response from Earth Command? Miller asked. Yes, sir. Admiral Collins reports their ships have increased speed. Estimated arrival in 6 hours. That may be too late, Miller said quietly. Suddenly, Peterson shouted, Captain! Energy surge in the Craxian flagship. They're charging some kind of heavy weapon. Miller made a quick decision. All power to forward shields. Brace for impact. The massive Craxian flagship fired a beam of intense energy directly at the USS Defender. The shield flared brilliantly as it absorbed the massive attack. Shields holding at 92%, Peterson reported, sounding relieved. But the ship's automated defense systems, detecting the serious threat, activated their final protective measure without waiting for orders. A pulse of energy spread outward from the USS Defender, washing over all the attacking ships. One by one, the Craxian vessels went dark, their power systems completely shut down. They drifted helplessly in space. "What just happened?" Miller demanded. "Sir," Garcia explained, "the adaptive defense system registered the attack as a major threat and responded automatically. It sent an electromagnetic pulse that's disabled their power systems. They'll reset in about an hour, but for now, they're completely defenseless." Miller looked at the screen in dismay. 20 Craxian ships now floated powerless, including their flagship. In the eyes of the watching Craxian fleet, the human warship had just demonstrated a power beyond their worst fears. Silence filled the meeting room on the Craxian space station. The Craxian leaders stared at the screen, showing their powerless fleet drifting in space. No one spoke for several long moments. Finally, Admiral Vextula broke the silence. 20 ships. 20 ships disabled without firing a single shot. His voice was hollow with disbelief. Howard looked at Wright, then back to the Craxians. "This wasn't what we wanted." The defensive system activated automatically when it detected a major threat. Automatically? Scientific Director Kelzer asked, his 4 eyes wide. "Your defenses think for themselves?" "To a limited extent, yes," Wright explained. "They're designed to protect the ship with minimal harm to attackers. The ships will regain power in about an hour. No one has been injured." Counselor Mithven stood up slowly. Her skin had turned a pale blue color that Howard hadn't seen before. "Your one ship could defeat our entire fleet without trying." It wasn't a question, but a statement of fact. "We don't want to defeat anyone," Howard insisted. "We came to meet new civilizations, to learn and share knowledge." The young Craxian officer, who had brought news of the attack, spoke up suddenly. "The rest of the fleet is retreating, Counselor. They're running away." On the main view screen, they could see the remaining Craxian ships turning and moving rapidly away from the USS Defender. Panic had overtaken the fleet. "This situation has become too dangerous," Counselor Mithven said. "You must leave our territory immediately." Howard shook his head. "Running away won't solve anything. We need to talk, to understand each other." "What is there to understand?" Admiral Vextula asked bitterly. "You have technology we cannot hope to match. The Craxian Collective has never faced such a situation." Wright stepped forward. "Admiral, that's exactly why we need to talk. Humans weren't always this advanced. We learned and grew through challenges, and, yes, through conflicts, but also through cooperation." Back on the USS Defender, Captain Miller was making a difficult decision. "Lieutenant Baker, prepare a message to the Craxian leadership," he ordered. "I'm going to the space station myself." "Sir?" Baker looked shocked. "That's extremely dangerous." "It's necessary," Miller said firmly. "Howard and Wright have started building trust, but what just happened will have destroyed much of that progress. I need to show them that we're serious about peace." "The shuttle is still docked at the station," Peterson noted. "You could use it to return." Miller nodded. "Inform Howard and Wright of my decision. I'll be leaving immediately." 20 minutes later, a small transport vessel left the USS Defender, carrying only Captain Miller. He had removed his uniform jacket, wearing only the simple blue shirt underneath. He carried no weapons, not even a communication device. This was a gesture of complete trust. As Miller's small vessel approached the space station, he could see the powerless Craxian ships still drifting nearby. The USS Defender's defensive system had been more effective than anyone had anticipated. No wonder the Craxians were terrified. On the station, Howard and Wright were still trying to salvage the diplomatic situation when they received word that Captain Miller was approaching. "Your captain is coming here?" Admiral Vextula asked, surprised. "Why would he take such a risk?" "Because he believes in peace," Howard said simply. and he's willing to put himself in danger to prove it. When Miller arrived at the station, he was met by a group of nervous guards. They searched him thoroughly before escorting him to the meeting room. Miller entered the room and immediately bowed deeply to the Craxian leaders. "Thank you for allowing me to join these talks. I am Captain Frank Miller of the USS Defender." The Craxian seemed unsure how to respond to this gesture. After a moment, Counselor Mithveen returned a small bow. "Your ship has demonstrated power beyond our experience, yet you come here alone and unarmed." "Why?" "Because fear can only be overcome by trust," Miller said, "and someone has to take the first step." Miller turned to Admiral Vextula. "Admiral, I understand your concern for your people. I feel the same about mine. Neither of us wants conflict." The Admiral studied Miller carefully. "Your ship disabled 20 of our vessels without effort. How can we not fear such power?" Miller nodded. "I understand. But consider this. If we wanted to harm you, why would we only disable your ships? Why would I come here alone? The truth is, we have no interest in conquest or destruction." "Scientific." Director Kelzer spoke up. "Then what do you want from us?" "Knowledge," Miller replied. "Friendship, trade, perhaps. The universe is vast and often dangerous. All civilizations benefit from allies." As they talked, Engineer Garcia's voice came through Howard's communicator. "Sir, I have good news. The Craxian ships are beginning to regain power. Systems are coming back online now." On the view screen, they could see lights flickering on across the disabled fleet. The ships were slowly coming back to life, just as the humans had promised. This seemed to make an impression on the Craxian leaders. They exchanged glances. "You could have destroyed those ships," Admiral Vextula said slowly, "but you chose not to." "Of course," Miller agreed. "We're explorers, not conquerors." Counselor Mithvin's skin changed color again, this time to a deeper blue. Wright recognized this as a sign of thoughtfulness or contemplation. "Perhaps," the counselor said carefully, "we have misunderstood your intentions." Miller smiled. "And perhaps we could start again? Not as potential enemies, but as potential friends?" Before anyone could respond, Lieutenant Baker's voice came through Howard's communicator. "First Officer Howard, 3 Earthships have just arrived in the system. Admiral Collins sends her regards." The Craxians looked alarmed at this news. "More of your warships?" Admiral Vextula asked tensely. Miller shook his head. "Not warships, support vessels. They carry scientists, diplomats, and supplies. They were sent to help with first contact, not to fight." On the view screen, they could see 3 human ships approaching. They were similar in design to the USS Defender, but clearly built for different purposes. One was sleek and fast-looking. Another was larger with visible scientific equipment, and the third was clearly designed for diplomatic missions with its distinctive profile. 3 more ships, Counselor Mithvin noted, yet still so few compared to our fleet. "Quality over quantity," Miller said with a small smile. "But more importantly, we come with open hands, not closed fists." The scientific director had been quiet for some time, studying data on a small device. Now he looked up. "Captain Miller, your defensive technology. It could help us. The Craxian Collective has enjoyed peace for centuries, but there are regions of space we avoid because of dangerous species." Miller nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps we could discuss some technology sharing, not weapons, but defensive systems." For the first time, a new color appeared on the skin of the Craxian leaders, a soft purple that Wright hadn't seen before. She leaned close to Howard and whispered, "I think that's hope." Counselor Mithvin rose from her seat. "Captain Miller, First Officer Howard, Officer Wright, we have much to discuss. I will contact our government and recommend that we establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth." Miller smiled and extended his hand, a human gesture of friendship. After a moment's hesitation, the counselor reached out and took it. 6 months later, the USS Defender returned to that same sector of space. But this time, it wasn't alone. A Craxian vessel, the Peaceseeker, traveled alongside it. The two ships were on a joint mission of exploration. On the bridge of the USS Defender, Captain Miller watched as a young Craxian officer worked alongside Lieutenant Baker at the communications station. Cultural exchange programs were already proving successful. "Captain," the Craxian officer said, his skin a healthy blue color, "my people have a saying, fear closes doors, courage opens them." Miller nodded. "We have a similar saying, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself." The first encounter between humans and the Foch, Craxian collective, had nearly ended in disaster. But by overcoming fear and choosing trust instead, both civilizations had gained valuable allies in a vast and often dangerous universe. And the USS Defender, once seen as a terrifying weapon of destruction, was now welcomed throughout Craxian space as a symbol of friendship and cooperation.